Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now here we are at the beginning of December, and I've even broke out some Christmas set deck. I got this Nutcracker guy behind me here, and if you look in the deep background, there's this sock monkey just chilling back there. And today we're here to talk about a film that has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, and that is 2017's The Shape of Water. Now this is a fantasy horror creature feature type of film. It was directed by Guillermo, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Guillermo del Toro. I got it pretty close. I feel like I got it pretty close. But this was released recently by the Criterion Collection in a 4K UHD format. And this is the Criterion release we're going to be talking about predominantly. But even though I do have this older Blu-ray that I got at some point, but we're going to talk about that more here later as well. Now, Guillermo del Toro is a Mexican filmmaker, and he's directed some Spanish films that he's probably, to me, he's more well known. Now, I first saw his film, The Devil's Backbone, a long time ago, and I don't have a copy of it, but there is a Criterion Blu-ray release of that as well. And by the way, I'm going to put some links in the description below of this video where you can purchase some of the films we're talking about through Amazon affiliate links. But he also directed, and I might get a kickback from that, just so you know, but he also directed Pan's Labyrinth, which is a really awesome Spanish film as well, and it shares some similarities to The Devil's Backbone as far as the theme and the way he handles the shots and the characters and things of that nature. And he kind of brought more of that type of artist type of shots and the way he handles the characters to this Shape of Water film. So this film did win the Best Picture Oscar of 2017, and it won, I think, 4 Academy Awards total, including Best Director as well. But it was nominated, according to the front of this Blu-ray, it says nominated for 13 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. But the Criterion Collection, they don't even have to worry themselves about Academy Awards, because they are the Criterion Collection. They just put it out there and they're like, this is it, this is the movie. And people are like, Criterion Collection says it's the movie, we're going to buy it. So Guillermo del Toro, he wanted to make a creature from the Black Lagoon movie. And he approached Universal Studios about it. And here's how I think the meeting went. I wasn't there, but this is how I think it went down. He comes in and they sit at the table, and there's like a moment of like kind of silence. He's like, I am Guillermo del Toro, and I have an idea. I would like to make a creature from the Black Lagoon film. And they were like, well, Guillermo del Toro, we love your film. We love Pan's Labyrinth. That is the shizzle right there. And Guillermo goes, I have an idea, because I want to make this different than the original. I think the creature needs to hook up with the main actress. And the executives were probably thought at first, they're like, maybe he's joking. I don't know about that. But then he wasn't. And they're like, we can't like have the creature and the lead actress of the film hook up. So sorry, Guillermo. We love Pan's Labyrinth. We love Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, but that's too far, taking it too far. So he took it down the road, and he was able to get it made without Universal's approval. So really, though, in all seriousness, Universal does have, the creature from the Black Lagoon property. So they were probably a little, I mean, it is kind of a little concerning, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes, about that aspect of the film, which, but it is I'm sure it did raise some red flags, and they thought maybe it would completely destroy their brand. Because they don't only have, they have their brand as far as the older films to think about as well, not just the newer things. So this piece is a period piece as well. It takes place in 1962 during the Cold War, but in the United States. But the main character is a mute. She's a mute janitor at a secret government research facility, and she's mute, and she also has a scars on her neck that look like almost like a creature had clawed her neck. So there's something going on with that. She hasn't been able to talk, but she works for this. She works as a cleaning lady for this government research facility, where they bring in the creature, who I guess the Gill Man. They call him something else here. They call him amphibian I think an amphibious man or something like that, but he's really the Gill man. So they bring him in. So along with him comes this crazed colonel played by Michael Shannon. So they've been out on an expedition in the Amazon where they got him, similar to what happened in the first film. Now, now this film is similar to actually the Revenge of the Creature, the second Creature from the Black Lagoon film, because that's the one that takes place in the aquarium where they bring him in, and the Gillman's in this aquarium for most of the film. But anyway, so yeah, but Michael Shannon plays a character who's very similar to some of his other villains in say like Pan's Labyrinth. Like he likes to take this kind of army guy who's a white guy who's in charge, and he's just like he's power hungry and he's also sadistic, and he's this character Michael Shannon plays. I think his name's Strickland or something like that. Really, everything this character does is very unlikable, and even like say one of his earlier encounters with the women who were cleaning, they're in the bathroom. And he comes in and he washes his hands and he goes over and does his business right in front of them. He don't care that they're watching, and then he doesn't wash his hands when he leaves. So that's kind of like he says he doesn't trust people who wash their hands in both situations. You got to pick one or the other. But he does like odd things like that throughout the film, and we'll talk more about him here in a bit. Now I do want to talk about something that happens earlier on in this film that probably. This film is seen by a lot of people, and it did win a lot of awards. But there's some nudity in it, and there's some sex scenes, but and all that sexual stuff. It really stands out anytime you see those scenes because it's kind of a period piece, and things seem to be going. Everything looks really cool here. The government facility, the apartments, and everything. Like the set deck is friggin' terrific. But then you have these very when the first time you see any kind of sex act, the main character, when you're kind of introducing her, she goes into her bathtub, completely nude, of course, getting into the bathtub, and then she starts to masturbate. Now they did cut away from that fairly quick. They didn't linger on it, but it was kind of an establishing. Some people ask what was the point of that, and it's kind of to establish that we're going to throw in some sexual stuff in this film, so get ready for it. Maybe, I don't know. And I guess that you can justify it with other things too, because it kind of shows that character is in need of something. Sometimes people masturbate just because they enjoy masturbating, or they don't necessarily have to have somebody else. But maybe I guess that's kind of showing that she is lonely in a way, and she does want sex in some way. For later when she hooks up with the creature, which we'll get to later. And that really does happen in this film, by the way. Now, the main character's name is Eliza Exposito, played by Sally Hawkins. Now, Sally Hawkins, I've seen her in some other films, like the Paddington Bear films, the Godzilla films, like the newer ones, the one with Bryan Cranston in it. She also played Willy Wonka's mother in the new Willy Wonka film. But here she plays this deaf-mute character who she starts to see this creature they bring into, and it starts as a friendship. But she doesn't have very many other friends other than a co-worker, Zelda, played by Octavia Spencer, who has a very, very abrasive personality, and also her neighbor. I think she's kind of a roommate that she lives with, an older guy played by Richard Jenkins, whose name is Giles. Now he is like a homosexual character, and he's an older guy, but she becomes friends with him, and he knows sign language. She can only communicate through sign language. So there's some fairly powerful scenes between the two of them. And Richard Jenkins is really good in this film. Originally, they wanted to cast Ian McKellen in it. Ian McKellen wasn't available, and so they had to cast somebody else. And unlike Ian McKellen, who is homosexual, Richard Jenkins, as far as I know, isn't, since he's married and all that to a woman. But he does a really good job playing this very likable character, and he's very believable in it. It's one of the better. I think all the performances here are really good in general, but he's definitely very likable. Just like Michael Shannon is not likable at all. He plays a complete like unlikable character. And there's a cool part earlier on, before you see the creature really good. Now, the creature here is played by Doug Jones. Doug Jones was in a lot of his other films. He's in Pan's Labyrinth. He plays like several of the creatures here. And he's in Now in the Hellboy films, he plays like a character named Abe, who's like is a part fish. So it's a very similar looking character to the ones in the Hellboy films. So he is kind of played this character a little bit before, but not in the same way. But before we see the creature really good, Michael Shannon's character, the Strickland character, gets his fingers bit off by him, and there's a scene where he comes out in the hall and he's like blood all over the place. His fingers are gone, and then he gets them reattached, but they're not really. He doesn't know if it's going to work or not. It's pretty gross, and his fingers are looking really awful throughout the film. He's having a hard time with it. Now, and there's a sex scene between him and his wife. It's kind of in the middle of it. These sex scenes are just like, there's not that many of them, but when they come, it's like, whoa, all of a sudden he's just like, he kind of introduces his wife, and he's all of a sudden just having sex with her hardcore, and she's saying something about his hands like bleeding, and he covers her mouth, and he's like, stop talking. And then so that he starts thinking like, I'd rather have sex with someone who can't talk, and he actually starts trying to hit on the deaf mute character, the mute character. She's not deaf, she can hear, she just can't talk. But he starts trying to hit on her because he's thinking maybe if they like have sex and she won't be making the same amount of noise his wife makes. So he thinks that might be an interesting thing to happen. That's another awful thing that he's all about. It's just making his character really bad. Now this does take place during the Cold War, and now there's another doctor there who's really more of a humanitarian, but he is a Soviet spy as well, and he's trying to get this technology for the Soviets of this gill creature. Now, once you start seeing the creatures, they're pretty cool. Looks really awesome the way that he looks. His makeup is fantastic. Doug Jones does a terrific job playing this character who doesn't talk, but this creature also has some supernatural abilities of healing and things of that nature. And he probably has more powers that aren't even seen on screen. But the Soviets want this technology, but this other doctor, the Americans want to kill it and just examine it later. They don't want to have to go through, because they know that he's dangerous, and so they don't necessarily want to keep him alive. And it gets to the point, but this Soviet doctor, the Soviets want him as well, but then the Soviet doctor ends up wanting to help the main character. Now there is a part in the middle of the film where the Sally Hawkins character finds out they're going to kill the creature, and she's befriended it, and she wants to save it, and she goes to Richard Jenkins' character and she asks him for his help, and he gets very defensive and he starts trying to leave, and he's like, who are we to help do this? We're nobodies. And then she uses some sign language to tell him that they are nobodies if they don't help, and then he leaves, but then he thinks about it later some more, and he ends up helping it. While it was going on, I'm thinking that is a very powerful scene. To me, it's probably one of the better scenes in the film, but it's also that my thought was like, how can he help? But he does help. He ends up being the driver to help get the creature away from the facility, and he takes a lot of risk, and he very easily, and I'm not going to necessarily give it all away, but he very easily is risking his own life in a very dangerous way. But he decides to do that rather than do nothing. And also, luckily, the Russian guy does pitch in at the right time, and they're able to get the creature away from the facility. Now, I don't want to go into the full details of the whole rest of the plot and give it all away, but it was a very exciting film to me. And it was weird about this film because I knew about the sexual stuff between the creature and the main character, and that was really a turnoff for me. I didn't really want to see any of that. And luckily, it doesn't really, when it does happen, it doesn't like show that much. It's kind of like in the bathtub scene where she's masturbating. It cuts away from it pretty quick, fortunately. But but that was like I knew it was going to be a good movie because it won Academy Awards, and Guillermo del Toro made it, and I liked his other films. I just was a little concerned about that, and it was a kind of, even I've had this Blu-ray for a long time, and I haven't watched it. I never watched the Blu-ray, and it wasn't until when I got this one that this is the first time watching it for me, and it's really is a really good movie in general. I really like the period piece flavor of the film, and the film looks very artsy, and the color scheme here fits very well. It kind of gives you, it kind of reminds me of a lot. Now I do like the original creature from the Black Lagoon films, and it kind of gives you that feeling in a way but better, I would think. Probably better than the original ones even. Maybe not. I mean, it is better. It isn't. You don't have the Amazon part of the original one, but it's better than the second one when he's in the aquarium, the whole film. But it's really, really well done, and the whole thing is it's really a beautiful film in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not so sure how much the sexual part was needed in the film. It does kind of play into it. Now, there is something. Now, for those who are concerned about this amphibian, half man, I guess half creature, having sex with a human character. Now, there is something that happens at the end, and I'm not going to give it away right now, but it does kind of make that. But it does. Now, there is something that happens at the end, and I'm not going to give it away, but it does kind of make it a little bit better. That whole thing, it does make it a little bit better by the end of the film. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this Criterion release. Like all Criterion releases, there's a C up in the right-hand corner here. You can't see it very good on this one, but that C is there. On the inside of it, we have two discs. We have a 4K UHD disc, and we also have the Blu-ray. Now, there was a sticker on the front of this when it was packaged. It was like it was kind of stuck on the front. It doesn't stick, unfortunately. Now, this is the only indication on the outside cover that this is a 4K disc. But there's also a booklet in here about the film, and it's not like a huge. It's more like it comes out like this, and there's some words about the whole thing. And on the back side, you got some pictures. You got Sally Hawkins and Michael Shannon's character, and some kind of odd red lighting thing going on. But it's pretty standard Criterion set here. It looks good. I'm glad that it had a Criterion. Now, there is a 4K release of this that came out at the same time as this Blu-ray disc here, which, by the way, we're gonna just pop this off. It's awful echo disc here, echo case. But there is a 4K release that came out at the same time as this one. I'm not sure if the transfers are the same on the Criterion and that 4K, but I'm going to read you a little bit about the transfer. And I'm going to try to make it short and try not to bore you with that shit for too long. This is a 4K digital master supervised by director Guillermo del Toro with a 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio work. One 4K UHD film presented in HDR. So it looks really good. It is a 4K disc. I haven't seen it, the Blu-ray. I didn't watch the Blu-ray, but to me, like the black levels look really good. It is I guess a digital edited disc, but I like the color schemes of Guillermo del Toro here, especially. He has kind of an aqua blue over a lot of, especially the aquarium scenes, which a lot of the film takes place there. Even in the apartment scenes, which is also a cool thing in the apartment. Like, she lives in an apartment above a movie theater, so there's like a movie theater below it, which is a cool little touch to the film. But it has that kind of old like 1960s feeling. Something about the way that it's lit and the way that the color grading, it all kind of gives you that kind of old type of feel. But I think with the 4K, there's probably a lot more textured. Everything, you do see a lot of textures, especially on the clothes, and you see in the hair and the skin, and you know, the fish monster. It looks, the makeup on that fish monster and just the way the eyes move, it looks really outstanding. It looks like a lot better than it would have looked had they tried to computer animate or digitally animate that thing. Let's go ahead and rate the film. I'm going to give the film 4.5 stars. This is a terrific film. It's one of the few of the later Oscar films that I actually really liked, and I'm surprised this won an Oscar, seeing that it is kind of about the creature from the Black Lagoon falling in love with this mute lady, but it actually works really well. But clearly, there's some themes here about this forbidden love between these two characters that means something more than what you see on the screen. As far as Criterion Collection, I'm going to give them a 4. I think they've done a good job with this release. Anyway, if you've seen this film, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.